So this advice is the best. The 17th, the guy says that the introduction and conclusion are the hardest part. So when you are writing to a congress or some type of event, sometimes you are writing and then you think that you are going to write the introduction and the conclusion in a fast way, and sometimes the paper doesn't goes with a good introduction and a good conclusion because you didn't spend a lot of time on that. So try to plan yourself to spend a lot of time in these parts, and the parts that are almost they almost write themselves easily. The literature review and the discussion, literature review, discussion, and the presentation of data, you try to go as fast as possible because these two parts are more hard to write. So you use more time on that because if you don't use more time on that, the paper doesn't sell itself. This part I use very much. Don't write a thesis, write chapters of papers. I usually when I'm doing the summary of the papers, I don't think that I'm doing the summary of 100 papers from periódicos capes. I usually think that I'm doing the summary of only 5 papers of that day, one day at a time. Because if you think about all the papers that you are going to read, you sometimes get I don't know, get tired only of thinking, and can get start procrastinating things. If you divide the work in a biteable piece to each day and start working every day, if you don't care if it's weekend, if it's holidays and everything, you can manage to do a summary of all the papers in 1 month, and then you can make the categorization of the data in 10 days, for example. So you can bite a little at one day, and then you can achieve to do a big piece of work. Okay. Another strategy, this one don't work for me very much, but for this author it works, is to write different parts of the work at a time. So if you think that writing the literature review is easier, you can write this part at the same time that you are writing the introduction of the paper. For me it doesn't work, but I don't know, okay, it can work for you, okay?
You write the review first?
I usually start the literature review first, and prior to this literature review, I do the summaries of the papers, and then the categorizing, and then the literature review. So if you don't get organized first, you don't write your literature review. So usually you take 1 or 2 months or 1.5 months to organize yourself first prior to writing the literature review. And when you write your dissertation or a paper, try to write one page at a day. because sometimes if you try to write 5 pages in one day, the final pages are going to be horrible because you are tired and the kid is calling and many things start to happen. But if you program yourself to write 1 page at a time, and it doesn't matter if it's Saturday, it's holiday, or it's Sunday, the thing is, starts flowing, because it's like doing the exercises. You have to do every day, because if you don't do it, doesn't work. I have to do more exercise. I don't do, but okay. And another thing that the author says is that you have to make your writing flow. What is that? You have to make a meeting between the patches of the thoughts that you are that you studied, because if you don't the knit of your patchwork, the text is going to be bored, boring. It's going to be a text that is, how do I say? It's like a badly knitted patchwork. You have to make the authors flow inside the text. So how do I say? You already saw a TED Talk, or another talks that are from people that are from the research community, but that are given to the general audience. They usually cite many authors, many theories, but it's flowing inside that talk. It's not like author and author and author and data and author. It's not a boring structure of talking. You have to think that you are talking to another reader, and the reader has to be interested in your work. So try to tell a story using the authors, not put one author after another, so it gets boring and people don't cite your work, and your impact factor goes below 0. So if you want to raise your impact factor, you have to make your text good to read. You have to seduce your reader. Okay. This advice: back up your work religiously. It's very important. Many students, myself, with me, it happened too, and to my luck and my divine providence, I had all the backup in the Google Drive. But to everyone, the printer breaks, the smartphone breaks, or the laptop breaks, something is gonna break until the final of the dissertation process. So try to have your work saved, or the transcriptions of the interviews, the tables, the software that you downloaded. Anything that is important to your work has to be backed up in some cloud, because sometimes anything can break down, and if you don't do that, you have to start all over. And sometimes there is not time to start all over. Okay. So this part I don't agree very much. So that's okay. This one, writing little papers, this is more historical paper, because this guy is from the beginning of the era of the salami papers. You did, you listen about the salami papers or not? Salami is like mortadella for us. So people started when being evaluated by the impact factor and this kind of ideology. People started to make slices of the results and put in each paper one slice of the result. So they started calling this to make salami papers. So this guy, instead of calling them salami papers, he called little papers. So he advises not to write little pieces of work that are part of a bigger thing, of a bigger research, because at that time, this was a strategy that, I don't know, didn't contribute to build theory. But today, this is so used, this is so mainstream, that sometimes the speech, the ideas of the author seems a little lost in time. Today, we usually, for instance, I study the case of an organization using a concept, and then I use another, I study another organization with the same concept, and then the third, the fourth, until the 10th one, and then at the 11th work, I write a theoretical paper using a multi-case study, using the concept to analyze the 10th organizations. So this is kind of a salami paper, but this is natural. This is a way of making the flow of production of papers working, and you are evaluated on this basis, on the impact factor and the constancy of the publishing of your papers. So today is natural to do salami papers. In ancient times, just like in the 1950s and so on, they were not seen in a good manner.
Because today have many papers about.
There are many journals. You are evaluated by writing to journals and being cited. And if you don't do salami, you don't do papers. You don't write papers. That's.
Journal of Science last year spent 10 years to get his doctoral. So today you use only 3 years. You can get them 2 years.
Yes.
So but have more technology to research.
Yes.
It not help to the research to publish only multiple articles, but it's interesting to our wage, our salaries.
So play the game the nicer way that you can, and go on. If we don't know how to play, we don't get down to the playground, and that's okay. This.
The more interesting is if we do what this paper are saying, we will not be here in the next year to see what this paper are saying.
Yes, because CAPES comes here and closes up this whole building and say that we are not allowed to have a master degree and a doctoral degree either.
So in 3 years you have to publish, the teachers of the program have to publish 2 articles in A1. So like it's necessary
2 A2. One article A1 or 2 A2.
For a year?
For a year, it's 100 points.
100 points. But in 3 years is 250.
Okay.
So teacher.
Each teacher has to publish ideally 100 points per year, and one A1 paper is worth 100 points. One A2 is 85, and it goes down 15 by each grade. And the grades are A1, A2, B1, B2 until B5 and C. And C is 0 and B5 is 10. So if you publish 10 B5 papers, you get 100 points. But it's better to publish like 3 B2 or B1, because you write less and get more visible, because the papers are in journals that are more visible.
Only people will stay here in 2019. You can to visit and to see who will be here, who's not.
Yes. This one, this is kind of a manual of how to write in English and not commit that little mistakes that we commit when we are not native people from British or American context.
It's important to know about how the language of the author. No?
The what?
It's important to know where from the author. This one.
This one. I think she's British. Cambridge, British. So, but the advices that she gives are applicable both to American and to British contexts, because she writes some words that are different in the different Englishes. And she writes, for example, labor with you in British and without you in American English, and so on. But some things that are used all through English in any context are here too. So you have to avoid colloquial language and avoid cliché and so on. It's just like that manual. I think that I sent you that redaction manual from CNJ here, from Brazil. There are 5 manuals. It's one for redaction, one for official redaction. I think I sent you 5 manuals. Don't know, sent or not? Let me show this. Where? No, this is not.
Iwamoto or Iwamoto?
Iwamoto. The W in Japanese has the U sound. Okay.
Almost a smartphone. Yamato.
It's almost like a Samsung.
Motorola.
Oh,
Yamato.
quem dera. So there is this one of common errors in Portuguese, production of text, official redaction, syntaxes, or the way that you build phrases, and the way that the words and sounds and which grammatical class they are. So these five manuals are from the CNJ site. If you want, I can put in your email. Just remind me because I can forget. Okay.
The president, the president, have a handbook.
Yes? Oh, nice. Very nice. He loves mesocracies. Yes. Oh, that's okay. If he was a nice guy, I wouldn't care about the mesocracies use. That's
Today have a project of law Congress. And to avoid the call the authorities
uh-huh.
of country with the name like Excelência.
Yes.
Just Senhor.
That's nice.
I don't know. It's good. Keep going.
Yes. In Japan, there are many levels of these treatment pronouns. Just like if you talk to your kid, your children, you talk from top to down. If you talk to equal, you say another pronoun. If you talk to your boss, it's another pronoun. If you talk to the emperor, I don't know if you can talk. The pronoun is very different. For each level, there is a different pronoun.
But it's the same case. If you need something, you always you will use the pronoun. It's like, oh, I will not say doctor for a medical. Okay. What's your name? Oh, my name is Pedro. Oh, Pedro. I need something. But if you are in the hospital, almost dying, oh, Dr. Pedro, help me.
Yes, okay. That's the way it is, okay. This text that I found later, I tried to get a view of what strategies you can follow when you write a theoretical paper, because sometimes finding people to interview or people to apply a survey can be a very annoying and difficult task, because if you are going to make a survey, you have to apply 400 questionnaires. Try to find 400 people here in Tocantins. You can't find. How are you going to do that? It's very difficult. If you are going to do a qualitative work, usually I try to record 30 hours of conversation, trying to approach my theme as possible, but sometimes you cannot talk only about your theme, because if you only talk about your theme, you don't establish the report that you need for the interviewed person to give the information you need. So sometimes the best thing to do if you want to get published, don't depend on people, depend on your capacity of sitting down, your butt to read, and trying to develop the best theory that you can on your own. Because when you do that, you don't depend on anyone, you only depend on yourself. So these two strategies are good to develop theory. So the first one, you try to read as much as possible in the area that you are going to study, and try to put another brick in that area. And the second one you can identify flaws in the existing theories and try to say which theory is better than the other. So we are in a very fortunate area, and reading these papers for the 2 days class, I had some insights that I wanted to share with you. So sometimes when we are in the management area, we borrow some theories from sociology, from philosophy, from anthropology, and many areas. So sometimes these theories are conflicting, and sometimes these theories are complementary. So when we are building theory, we can put these many borrowed theories from many areas to help us to get a more, I don't know if it's a good term because it fell in the common sense, but in a holistic way. So if you, just like the phenomenon of power, the power that exists in the relationship between the professor and the student, and in which way, in which manner it appears when the student gets violent in the school and it's appearing in the journals. At the time of my dissertation, I read a lot about that, and I saw that there were at least 6 perspectives to study this phenomenon. So you can study from Foucault's point of view, you can study from Júlio Aquino's point of view that says that the power in this relationship can mean authoritarian position, and it is legitimate of the student to rebel against that authoritarian position, and there are many points of view. So if you try to put all these theories to dialogue with each other, you can try to build another theory that can make an interpretation of multi-levels of that phenomenon and many facets of that phenomenon. So I think in our area we are fortunate to do that. If we were in sociology or in philosophy or in another area that it's less applied than ours, we couldn't have this multidisciplinarity of doing this conversation between many theories. So let's use it in the best way that we can, because in our area we can, in other areas they cannot do that. Okay, thanks a lot.